Are you hypermobile, rigid, or are you somewhere in between or relatively normal? So I don't know if you've heard of hypermobility or hypermobile joints, but what that means is that there is a joint in your body or joints in your body which have more movement than normal. So commonly we would find people with hypermobile joints, they're able to touch their toes, in fact put their hands flat on the floor with their legs straight easily. They can bend their thumbs and make it touch this part of their arm. Their fingers almost look like it's going the other way. When they stand up straight, their knees go backwards almost, and the elbows almost go backwards beyond neutral. These are the people that we would consider as having almost hypermobile joints or too much joint movement. So another way I can describe it is, if you think about this bowl here, if you can see this bowl, imagine this is like a joint. One surface is representing the bowl and the bowl representing the opposition surface. So together these could be, say, the shoulder socket, okay? So the bowl and the socket, that arm movement. So someone who has maybe a relatively normal, maybe even rigid in their body, might actually have a socket that's quite deep, like this bowl. So when the ball or this arm bone moves, it's actually not really going to move out of that other joint surface. It's quite stable. Now, if you look at this bowl here, for example, you can see that it's a lot shallower here compared to this one here. And so because of that, when we're moving, that bowl is actually a lot more, has a heck of a lot of more movement and can potentially spill out of the bowl, okay? Very easily compared to, I'm shaking this really hard and it's not moving out, whereas if I were to shake this a lot more, that you can see that that potentially just falls out. So that's the same way, say for example, taking into account your shoulder joint, it's got a lot of movement because the ball and the socket, that shallow socket is probably one of the more shallow sockets in the rest of the, compared to the rest of the joints in your body. So someone who is hypermobile might have a much shallower socket than normal, so that allows that shoulder joint to really almost have more movement than necessary. So a lot of times hypermobile people tend to be the ones that dislocate joints. So they can dislocate their ankles, they can do the kneecap, so the knee bone almost flips out to the side. They can dislocate their shoulders. There's many things that they can do that can potentially, it kind of almost pop that joint out of its place. So a lot of times these people can also present with pain or with tension build up in certain parts of your body, depending on which area is being used a lot more or more friction in that area. So we as physiotherapists, we like to assess how someone's movement is, whether their joints are normal or abnormal, and whether the muscle control or the muscles that stabilize that joint are sufficient. They have enough control to actually keep that joint moving happily, and actually, especially when the joint is in an extreme position, whether or not you can actually dynamically control that with the muscles around it. So that's our role, to actually help people move better and control their joints better. Whether or not you have hypermobile joints, that's an extreme case. Whether or not you have a normal movement in your socket, but you just have some weakness in how it's controlled, or you might be rigid. So you might be like this bowl here, where everything is really stiff. You don't have a lot of movement, but because of that, you are very stiff and tight all over, and you struggle to touch your toes or anywhere near your knees. So, I mean, in those cases, we would then help you with working on that muscle flexibility and maintaining some movement that you can bend over and do your shoelaces fine without actually getting stuck and then getting pain. So on the other note, the people that we get the rigid, sort of like the really stuck, they're almost quite deep in their sockets, can actually get more pinching sensations where, you know, because they're so stiff, the joint can get stuck in a certain position and then not move, and then that jammed out feeling can also cause pain or discomfort. So again, we're always assessing and then seeing what areas we need to treat. So hopefully that clarifies a few things for you. You might actually be one of those people that dislocate things a lot, or you feel like everything has almost got too much movement, it's grindy, it's scrunchy, or you might feel like you're really stiff and locked up all the time. So either way, we can help you as well as the normal people. So later this week, I'm going to talk about a couple of exercises that would be great to do for someone who has a little bit of shoulder instability, or if you're getting some catching pain or pain even lifting your arms up. Chances are you might be a little bit weak in some of the muscles that stabilize and hold your shoulder in socket. So I thought this is a great preempt to actually showing you some exercises that I would recommend for those kind of conditions. So tune in on Thursday.